Welcome to Alex Saz Show, the Performance Edition. In today's episode, our guest is Jason Cavalier, the martial artist, a stuntman, an actor, a director, a performer of many sorts. He's also a producer. An interesting life, an interesting dude, good stories. Stay tuned. So welcome back to another edition of Alex Saz Show. Oh man, I'm so excited. Coming live to you from the main cave. Man, this is the best place ever. This is like a toy box for me. I want to stay here all day. As a matter of fact, I am sleeping over here tonight, and we're having a slumber party, and we're doing.
I think I have a mattress big enough. You guys can. You're all welcome. You can all hang out.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, this is a really welcoming place. This is a really cool place for me to be in. All about movies, all about stunts and fighting. And that's kind of point of today's show. Jason Cavalier, what's up, man?
I don't know, not much. I'm still happy, dude. What's up?
There's some things that we have in common, right? We've been on movie sets together.
Yes, we have.
I've done some auditioning for you in some other settings.
Yeah.
And also, we went to the same high school. How crazy is that?
Yes, you have.
How crazy is that?
Dude, how crazy is that?
And I'm happened to be a Russian from Russia originally, and still end up in CVR, Scherer Valley Regional.
Yeah.
So a little plug for
Scherer. And you knew some of the same teachers. We knew some of the same teachers.
Exactly. So everything happens for a reason.
Like you remembered Mr. Wood?
Yes, I do remember Mr. Wood.
Mr. Woods is the guy that taught me my basic acrobatics. That was like the first time I had touched any kind of formal gymnastics or acrobatics or whatsoever. And this is what I used as a base to build on for like later.
And that's the guy I lived with for a few months when I went to CVR. How crazy is that? Right?
How nuts is that?
There's points of contact.
So I saw him in one way, you got the other story.
Exactly. But we're not talking about him. We're here to talk about you. And one thing, stop being humble, man. You're super humble. I saw your IMDB credits, man. Hundreds worth of stuff.
Yeah, but
acting, stunt work, stunt rigging, whatever else related to this. But it didn't start yesterday.
So you're saying, Jason, stop fucking being humble? Like, so what do you mean? Like,
meaning, like it doesn't match well. Like your humble attitude versus your IMDb profile. Like kind of find some balance.
Oh, okay.
You could be cocky a bit about it. That's what I mean.
Okay.
You feel good. But actually the question, why are you so humble? How did it all started? Like I know you didn't just grow up on movie set, but looking around it, you created the movie set around you, like your life as a movie set in general. And I'm very curious, how did it all started?
One thing a lot of people don't know about me was, and I get the story from my mom, my grandmother, and my dad. So I don't, obviously, I mean, I experienced it directly, but I don't know if I really remember it. Apparently, I was born like 3 months premature, like earlier than I should have been. So I went through a few, I guess, hardships. Like they said that I died 3 times on the table, supposedly, and they kept resurrecting me. And my father was in the Army at the time, and this was in Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. So I was born on a military base while my father was in the military. And they told him, look, sir, you're a healthy man, a healthy young man. You can have other children. We think we can do something with him, but be prepared for the worst if whatever. So my dad was getting shipped out to Seattle, and, he left with my mom. And they kept me for 6 months in an incubator on this military hospital in Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. And they kept me alive. And I keep trying to do research. I'm just curious, like about premature birth in that era, in that time, to know what were the procedures? What did they actually do to you? Incubator, yeah, I knew about that. Like other things, like keeping you warm. But some of the other things were very, very, like the success rate for kids that were born premature in that time were next to zero. So, I guess you could say, I'm sorry if that's long, but I guess you could say I was born with a I don't give a fuck, I'm already dead attitude. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's true.
I don't know, but that's kind of what happened.
Nothing to lose, kind of. You have the whole life in front of you to now enjoy it.
Yeah, not just that, but the fact that, I've been dead.
So fear is kind of eradicated from your lexicon.
I wouldn't say eradicated. That's not true, because there's things I fear. There's things that I grew up learning to fear, because it's part of it. But there was a basic kind of ability to get back up from adversity. I guess that was instilled from a long time. I don't know.
And it really helps with perseverance, again, not hitting the wall.
Don't quit.
Don't quit.
Don't quit, because if you quit, then for sure it won't happen. If you quit, for sure it won't happen. But if you don't quit, then the channel is still open. The hope, the possibility, whatever, is still there.
So let me get this straight. So you were born in New Jersey. So you're technically an American.
Not technically. I am an American. Yeah.
Interview's over. I'm kidding. Yeah. I'm kidding.
I mean, by citizenship, I'm an American. Do I identify necessarily with what it means to be an American? Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no, because there's certain values that I took from living there that I appreciate, I admire, and that I don't think are bad. But there's others that I've learned from being in other countries and meeting other people in different places that, geography, it's weird to say, but I haven't traveled very much. I've been to Europe, I've been to Mexico, but man, people are the same.
People the same everywhere you go.
People are the same everywhere you go. It's just the language change, or maybe we drink our tea like this and not like that. The details are different, but at the basic core, man, people are the same, man.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So you're born in New Jersey, and you went through some adversity early on. And at what point did you actually move to Canada with your family?
My dad was born here in Valleyfield.
Okay.
This is where he grew up, and he we were at a time where he had lived in this town, and he ran a bar and a hotel in this hunting town in northern Maine, in Jackman. And he reached a point where he just couldn't take it there anymore. He decided to uproot his life and just make a clean break and a new change. And he bought a tavern here in Valleyfield and decided to operate that. So when he moved here, I came with him.
Okay. How old were you?
14.
So where did you find that passion for creating, for movies? Yes.
Yeah, started young. I don't know exactly the seed, but I can tell you this. My parents divorced and separated and got back together again countless times. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I lost count. So my dad, working at this bar they told you about, this hunting bar, he would work double shifts. And that meant on Friday and Saturday, he'd work during the morning shift of the bar and then work at night until it closed, and then go to sleep for a few hours and then start the whole process all over just for the weekend. But he didn't have much time to devote to me, so he would have me babysat by another guy in town. And that guy owned the movie theater, the movie theater of Jackman, Maine. So that meant from the time I was 7 years old, I was going to see anything. I was exposed to most kids today, they're shielded, whatever, they only see G movies until they're maybe 15 or whatever, which is maybe not necessarily a bad thing. It depends on the family. But at that time, my dad just look, send him to the movies. He can watch anything, whatever. So I was with the son of the guy that owned the movie theater. We would watch everything. That was my early education. I saw The Heartbreak Kid with Charles Godin. And I saw, if you want to know what ignited my passion for action, it was James Bond. It was Dr. No, a double feature of Dr. No and Goldfinger.
Oh, wow.
And then I think there was also another one later. It wasn't a double feature, but I saw it later. It was On Her Majesty's Secret Service. There's one moment in that film where George Lazenby is grabbing onto a cable car cable to sneak into Blofeld's base. And he's sliding down it to get inside. And that was what, for me, I looked at it and I said, that somebody did that. That's a job, and that's part of making movies. And I also, I just kind of liked all of it. I wanted to know about it, right? But that was the one thing that led me to believe, action is cool. It
captured your attention.
Yeah, capture your attention, the music, and plus the juxtaposition with the images. It gets your heart racing. It has an effect on you, right? So I wanted to know, why does that have an effect on me? So I started to, that was my early film studies, if you will.
So you're an adrenaline junkie for the movies, for an action in general?
Well, partly. I mean, I developed an appreciation for the other aspects as well. from some of the other things that I saw. But the first thing that touched me was the action, definitely. Yeah.
So that's like, so that was your babysitter, the movies, and that's how you
Yes.
kind of shaped into it.
Yeah, you just
That's like a Tarantino movie, man, or something.
exactly.
That's
Yeah, when I heard that story about Tarantino working in a video store and watching all those movies, I understood that. I got that, you know.
In Man Cave that you have here, it's amazing. You have a lot of comic book characters, and specifically one that Batman. Is it all part of the same kind of upbringing? Was it part of?
Well, yeah, you know, I grew up. My dad, my Batman thing started with my dad. When my dad was in Valleyfield, okay, he grew up here in this town. It was very French English separated, but he had this fascination for this Batman comic book, and across the street it was the English section, and the French boys didn't go there. But my dad wanted to go across the street because what was being sold there at the pharmacy was Batman comic books. They were in English. He couldn't read them. He didn't care. He just was fascinated by it. So he told me the story of I had to like cross the street and look both ways, make sure that none of the English boys were there waiting for me to beat me up, because if I got caught in their territory, I'd get my ass kicked. But my dad would brave that he's like 8 years old, to go get an English comic book that he couldn't read, but he was fascinated by the image of it. So that story led me to start reading Batman comics. And then that's how I kind of got into it. And then I also realized, well, a lot of the, I guess, core principles, Batman being self-made, you know, he has no superpowers. He was self-made, you know, other than his wealth that he inherited. But, you know, everything else about him was to go out beyond his comfortable universe and try to develop himself. And that kind of thing, like of all the superheroes, that's probably why that's the one I gravitate towards.
They're relatable.
Yeah, exactly.
Feel human with that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of shaping your passion for action and vigilante kind of stuff.
Also instilling in you the desire to work to be what that thing is you want to be, like to go towards it, you know. And it's not just given to you; it has to be earned.
You've done a lot of martial arts in the movies, and you're doing a lot of stunts, like, and a lot of things you professionally trained for, or you had some professional experience. What is it?
I started martial arts when I moved to Valleyfield. Partly, one, because I got bullied a lot as a kid, and two, because I wanted to be able to, like, the films I was seeing, and I was thinking I might make movies or whatever. I kind of harbored an idea to act, to be like the main character in a film one day. You know? And I figured, okay, if I can fight like the action heroes I see, because like when I was 14, Kung Fu was on TV and all the people were using martial arts in fight scenes. I thought that was kind of like the new upcoming thing. So I figured if I learned how to do it, I would look better on camera. And that's how that started.
What was the styles? What did you learn?
The first one I learned was Jeet Kune Do, but it was taught not by a guy that was like officially accredited in Jeet Kune Do, but he understood, let's just say he understood the idea of it, the philosophy that you take what you need at the moment that you need it, and don't get bogged down in the dogma of one particular system. If it suits the moment, if you need it at that time, use that tool. But don't stick just to that tool, because at the time, you know, in the 60s and 70s, martial arts were very regulated. They were not cult-like, but it's like if you did karate, you only did karate. That was it. You did not go out and study judo. You did not go out and study some other thing. And I think that maybe some of the meaning of that was, if you try to learn too many things at once, then you would never get good at anything. I can understand that. But after a while, if you study only one style and you only spar with people from that style, you get kind of like insular, you know, and your art doesn't evolve and doesn't grow. And I've had the experience from going to different schools that, you know, I'd say get good in like Taekwondo, kicking. And I got not good, but I got passable to understand long range, you know, kicking, keeping people away. And I like that art because I got bullied a lot. And I got beat up a lot. And when people would get in my face, I would cringe. I would have that natural fear reflex. So Taekwondo appealed to me because I could keep the person at what I felt was a comfortable distance using my legs. So I developed kind of a long-range fighting style. But if you met someone that was good with their hands and they suddenly got past that and got in your face, and they box you or knock you out, then I wasn't so great at that. So I realized I got to go get all kinds of different tools to put in my tool bag.
So it was a bit of both. It was a necessity kind of thing to build your self-confidence to walk through the hallways of the main streets of Valleyfield.
So. Yeah, very much so.
Tell me about your Army experience. I know you had that.
Yeah. When I left here, I was at a place where, like, I had made movies and I studied drama in high school, but I still didn't know how to go about, like, that was my dream. I still didn't know how to go about doing it. Like, how do I actually do it? No one could help me. My dad was like, don't look at me. I run a bar. I have no idea how to become an actor, whatever. If you want to know how to serve beer, I can help you. But I went to a guidance counselor at CVR. I don't know if you had that experience.
No, and I didn't get that far.
Oh, man. They go and they try to tell you what to do, and like what there is in Ormstown. It's like farmland and whatever, but there really was no one there to kind of tell you how to go about doing it. So guys like, so what do you want to do with your life? And I looked at him and said, I want to be an actor and I want to be a stuntman. Exactly. That's exactly what I got. It was like, and he had like zero, it was like a 15-second pause. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get any help here. He's like, well, you might be able to take a drama course or this or that or the other thing. But he seemed so uncertain. And I was like, I didn't have a lot of trust in him. And so I spent another 6 months of living in my parents' basement. It was like wandering. It was like I didn't know what direction to go. And my dad told me, he says, when I was lost like that, I didn't know what direction to go. I joined the Army and it helped me out. So that's what I did. I joined the U.S. Army, and it was what you pretty much see like in Officer and a Gentleman or Full Metal Jacket, except the killing part, because at the time that I was in the Army, there was no conflict. There was no, war going on, which is probably a good thing. But what it did give me, and instilled in me, the idea of discipline, and it gave me a base. I found out, let's put it this way, I found out real quick what I wanted to do. And I'm like, if I could put up with this, like basic training, I stuck out basic training, and I did my service career for about a year and a half. And I said to myself when I got out, like, if I could do that for a year and a half, I can do anything. Like, seriously, like, what am I stressing about? So I enrolled in courses in university. This was a complete fluke. Like, I ran into a friend of mine that had studied at CVR, and he was a year ahead of me. And he told me, I just ran into him while I was on vacation, and I asked him what he was doing now, and he said, well, I'm studying script writing. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, at Concordia University. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I always thought university was just like high school, same old subjects, math, English, whatever, religion and history, just at a higher level. And he's like, no, I'm studying like script writing. And he showed me this course booklet, and everything was there. It was like, there was drama in education, there was acting and directing, acting for the screen. I'm like, shit, I've always wanted to direct movies. You're telling me I can go to school and learn it? So he's like, yeah. So when I left the Army in the States, I came back to Canada, I enrolled, and I started to study filmmaking and film production and film studies at Concordia. And I lasted there for a year. And the one thing that I found was that my time at Concordia, the type of films they were interested in making were not commercial films. There was a lot of like experimental stuff, like a movie about, I saw one film, it was like, 3 minutes long, about a banana on a string. And the guy had let the banana on the string and let the banana out the window of a building, and it would spin there. And he just filmed that for 3 minutes, spinning banana.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing. Just
it's a good expression, like you said. He found himself.
Yes.
He could relate to a banana.
Yeah, exactly.
But you couldn't.
No, not exactly. I mean, I could. After spending another year in film studies, I started to appreciate that banana in a different way. But I couldn't see how,
That's not what you wanted to do.
Well, I wanted to learn how to make movies that were going to make some money, So the experience wasn't a total waste. I learned some good basics. But I had already, when I got there, had done my own editing, my own shooting and composing. And most of the students didn't even know where the on button on the camera was yet. So it was a very basic kind of course when I started. I was already doing like minor little stunts, jumping out a window, landing in cardboard boxes, putting together action sequences that required some editing and some knowledge of rhythm and timing and stuff like that. I was already doing that.
And the skills that you discovered for actual stunt performance, like there's that combination of your gymnastics, your martial arts, and your army experience, and a little bit of your birth experience, like given
probably,
yes.
The less of a desire, or rather less of a fear of death, but definitely the gymnastics and definitely the martial arts. So because I learned to fall early on and not hurt myself, and that's the basics of being a stuntman.
If somebody has an interest in discovering what does it mean to be a stunt, probably one of the best things to do is to go train some gymnastics.
Absolutely. Because essentially, your beginning jobs for a coordinator or whatever, they're going to be to fall down. You're going to ask to run. Okay, you're running, and then suddenly there's an earthquake. The crack opens up in front of you, and you have to fall. But don't fall in the crack, or whatever. But that's going to be like some of your very first jobs. Then later, you might progress to things like high falls, falling from a building, and it's the same skill, just transposed in a different environment. But the majority of what we do is fall down and die. Fall down and die really well.
Make it look good.
Yeah, make it look good.
And make the main actor look good as well.
That's true. If you end up doubling, if you're like lucky enough to be like that proportion of the actor and whatever, your job is to take the falls for him. And when you do it, make him look good as he falls. So I did that. I got lucky and did that once for 6 months. Being the stunt double for the lead, taking falls. I think I got injured consistently during about a month of work. I'd racked up enough for what I felt was like 10 years of injuries in that 6 months.
Is that a deterrent for it? Would you not because of that, what you just said, would you recommend maybe think twice before you step into a career of a stuntman?
Depends.
Meaning willing to accept bumps and bruises.
Yeah, you have to be willing to accept bumps and bruises. It's part of the job. Like if that's something that's like a deal breaker for you, don't choose stunts. You're gonna get bruised. You're gonna get banged around. It's like any professional sport, In fact, it's like a professional sport. But if you're smart enough, you can last a longer time, because a professional sport, they run you ragged,
Yes, but there's no rehearsal. I mean, there's practice in professional sports, but there's no do-over, there's no cut, and let's start again. I'm not ready. There's no such things. And like you said, you can be a little bit smarter in the stomach. You can rehearse.
You get the rehearsal, but to a certain extent also, you have to do your own homework and be able to come to the job with a certain set of skills ready to go.
I really enjoy watching YouTube videos that people put together, and it's much easier than to do it back in the day with an 8mm camera, because now everything you can do with your phone.
That's true. I wish I had the tools we have now back when I was 14.
But now that you have that phone, it doesn't still necessarily make you a filmmaker, right? No, you have that tool in your pocket. How do you make that segue to being a filmmaker? From enjoying the movie and having a passion for the movies, how do you I want to make a movie? And what helped you with that? Did you?
Yeah, the thing I'll say about my early films, I mean, I started out simply by imitating what I saw, or imitating the things that touched me. Can I do what they did? I wasn't necessarily creating my own content, because I didn't have a template for that. How can you create your own content until you know what your voice is? What are you trying to say? All I did was, they were early experiments. Can I do what I saw in the film, or a replication of it, or some simulation of it? Can I do that? And I started with that. So I would imitate a guy getting blasted by a shotgun. And what we did was, we didn't have a movie camera before I got one as a present. We'd used Polaroid. So we tied a belt, like just a regular leather belt with a cable, and we tied it to a pulley in a tree, and we had some guy pull on it, and then we would like try to capture that moment where we're like frozen in midair, like real comic book style. And then we had put some bushes and some leaves and whatever to land in, so we didn't wreck ourselves on the landing. But we were just going for that one still moment. That's how it started. The making of it. And then after, when I got a film camera, well, then it was like trying to replicate what I saw on TV or what I saw in movies.
How'd you get a film camera back in the day? That was expensive.
My dad gave me one. There was a special in a Sears catalog, like $100. You get a projector and a camera.
Oh, wow.
And then all you had to do was buy your film every week. Like it was, I don't know, like $8 for 3 minutes of film. So that's where I also learned how to do a lot of rehearsal time beforehand. You know, not to waste the film, because it cost a lot. And then you had to wait like 2 weeks to get it back and see if anything you shot was any good.
Because you couldn't develop it yourself.
Yeah, no, you had to send it away, pay like, $8, wait 2 weeks. Oh, fuck, is it good? Is it good? And 2 weeks later it comes. Okay, that shot's good. Oh, that's no good. And then just at the last moment, like the thing, they say it's 3 minutes of film. It's really 2 minutes and 97 seconds. You sometimes get your stunt right thing, and the thing would cut out because the last like 20 frames are white. You just see your feet start to leave the frame. So then the next week you try not to make that same mistake.
People have no idea how to appreciate this, man. Like I said, everybody got a smartphone.
Well, it's easy because now you don't have to worry about that. You can shoot endlessly. It costs nothing. Man, I wish I had this gear when I was a kid. It'd be awesome. Awesome.
Amazing. Which one do you prefer best? To direct or to act?
Wow, good question. I'm not sure I can give you try to give you a balanced answer. I like them both. I still like performing, but, and I still like performing my own stunts, but like anything, there's a lifespan, and the type of stunts that I think twice about now are like car hits or stair falls or things that have a great impact on the body. But I also like directing because I like being able to, I'm addicted to seeing that light in a person's eyes when they thought they couldn't do something. And then suddenly you sort of give them that little spark of, think about it this way. And then they get it, and they suddenly get it and they get inspired by that. I like that.
You like being inspiring. You're an inspiration to us all. Thank you for that.
Well, it's not what I like the feeling of seeing that a person feel like that moment of accomplishment that they like to get. Like, I remember what that's like. I guess I lived through it that way. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me because what you told me before, you didn't have yourself that many resources that can help you. So it's inspiring to you to inspire others by being that source. Is that like a fair assessment?
I guess that would, yeah.
So as you graduated, or not graduated, you just spent the year there. Did you discover it was too boring for you and it was moving too slow?
No, we had to make a movie for our year-end sort of test, and this was gonna determine whether or not we were accepted in the filmmaking program. And I made my film kind of like a Taxi Driver revenge thing with guns and blood and action. And then I helped 3 other students who had never made a film before make their films. And they had never really touched camera much or whatever. So I helped them with ideas with composition and things like that. But, more or less like just the look of their film. And they all got accepted and I didn't. And I got, my ego got bruised and I said, fuck it. I'm going to go do acting, because I was taking an acting class on the side because originally my goal was to direct, right? And I figured if I learn to act a little bit, then I will be a much better communicator when it comes time to direct the actors, because I'll know their language. I'll understand what it is. If I want to see something in particular, I'll use their language to do it. I'll get results much, much faster.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And while I was taking the acting class, that teacher was urging me to audition for the professional program. And I said, oh, thank you. I'm flattered, whatever. But really, I think I'm doing this because I want to be a better director. I want to learn, these techniques to be a better director. But thank you, I'm flattered. And she kept saying, if you decide you will change your mind, whatever. Well, then that one day when I found out I didn't get accepted in film production, I went to her and I said, okay, how do I do this? Because they didn't want me as a director. They don't want me making movies and, in their school, whatever. And you said that I might have a chance to make it as an actor. What should I do? So the two requirements to get in, you had to learn a Shakespearean monologue and you had to learn a modern monologue. And then you had to sing to get into the professional program. Well, they judged you. And so I picked one Shakespeare monologue. I picked a song. I didn't really pick a song. I just sang an army song. I'm like, fuck that. I can't sing. That ain't going to happen. But I'll sing in front of them because they want it. But I will tell them ahead of time, this is not going to be good. You might want to cover your ears.
Are you being modest?
I am not.
Can we get a sample?
What? A sample of what?
So what was your first break? What was your first? What was your first movie credit or TV show?
My first big break was a teen soap opera. It was called Time of Your Life, and it was translated into French. And when they translated it, they called it Campus. And it was. I was 25 years old at the time, and we did 130 episodes it was like a daytime soap opera. And this was the seed of what eventually became Beverly Hills 90210.
Wow.
Because the producer took the concept of our show, which was kind of brilliant. He said, there's plenty of soap operas and plenty of kids watch soap operas, but there's no soap operas about kids. And that's where he got that idea. He took our show, we had been shooting it for like 6 months, and he took it to Los Angeles and he sold it to Aaron Spelling, who was the producer of 90210. And Aaron looked at our show and said, well, okay, look, it's too low budget. The production value is not really good, but your idea is brilliant. So he basically, Harry Jacobs, the original producer of Time of Your Life, sold him the concept. And he took our show as a template and made 90210 with it.
That's a crazy story.
Yeah. If you look at 90210, my character was the template for the Luke Perry character.
I see the connection there, actually. No, I really do.
That was the idea of it. But in French, the show played for 3 years straight. They only had 1 year worth of show, and we never finished the cliffhanger ending. But they kept playing it year after year after year in French in Quebec. And it got to the point where, I knew what it was to walk down the street and get recognized and kind of not have a life and have people running after you and following you home and,
groupies.
Yeah, weird stuff.
You had a lineup of groupies there in front of your house.
I don't know that I'd put it that way, but the possibility for it was there. Yeah.
So you heard it here on this show. Luke Perry wouldn't have existence. Well, let me rephrase this. Luke Perry wouldn't have exist as an actor and have a 90210 career unless you had some resemblance.
Unless that show had existed. I think, because he sold it. That's documented. So anyway,
Luke Perry, you heard it here how your career has started. So that's your first kind of claim to fame.
That was my first exposure.
Let me ask you this. Personally, you don't have to show me the checks, but a soap opera in Quebec that long ago, how good were the checks?
I'll tell you honestly, it was a non-union show. It was $150 a day.
But for a 25-year-old person, that's a steady paycheck.
Yeah.
Have you ever filmed with any of your childhood heroes? For example, I watched them as a kid, and now I'm on the movie set with them.
A couple. Yeah.
Did it change for you, the affection that you had for them on the movie screen once you met them in a personal life? Did it change anything?
Yes. Not always in a good way.
But isn't it part of the movie magic, though?
It is part of the movie magic. For example, it's just difficult to say. I worked with Jean-Claude Van Damme, but the thing is, to say it honestly, I was not a big fan of his work, starting. But because I could see he could do the splits, he had nice kicks, but I didn't find his fights were very innovative, or they didn't have a flow, or they were that interesting to watch. Because by that time, I was already into the Hong Kong stuff, and that stuff is just they've been doing it for, way longer than us on camera. they've got it down to a science. It's an art. He did not want to do anything particularly complex or interesting or different than he had done before. It was quick, simple, to the point, and kind of like what Steven Seagal was doing at the time, which was quick and efficient, but nowhere near as good. So he was sort of, at that time when I worked with him, he was sort of following Seagal's path. And he doesn't have a great, in my opinion, this is again just my opinion, I don't think he has a great grounding in the basics, the fundamentals of whatever system he started with.
So tell me about Order of One, how that came to be. How do you at what point do you decide like I'm gonna make like a full feature movie and I'm gonna star in it?
It came out of just necessity because we wouldn't have been able to do anything that was entertaining if I didn't do a lot of hats. The only thing, like, I didn't know, okay, despite everything I just said about Van Damme, like when he has a huge support structure, he can afford to make himself look good. We didn't. We had like next to no money. So the only thing I could tell my audience is I will not bore you. Okay. I will keep the film fast moving. I know it's going to be low budget. It's not going to have the best look all the time, whatever, but you will not be bored watching it, and I can say with total contentment, mission accomplished. So it's a 90-minute movie, and the acting holds up, the framing holds up, the composition holds up. It's not just action, but there's a lot of action in it, but it's the kind of action you will never see on that level of budget of a movie. And it doesn't stop, and it builds. It has the proper climax, proper story structure, and it has humor. Because if you're going to do a low-budget movie, I firmly believe, I'm in the Sam Raimi mold. I'm in the Robert Rodriguez mode of if you're going to do low-budget movies that don't quite have the glitz and glam of Hollywood, you have to keep people constantly interested,
Keep them hooked.
Yeah, keep them hooked. So for my particular taste, it's dark comedy and action, and that's what that is.
Do you like acting as much as doing stunt work?
Yeah, I do. I just never... there was a period of time where I had less confidence in doing it. Probably when I started, I wasn't really sure. Like I said, I didn't know that I could do it from the beginning of my career, which is why I chose directing. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to have what it takes. And I think that comes from being bullied, like people put down your self-esteem, like they deconstruct you, and, either you feel like you're not good looking enough, or you're not good enough, or not interesting, or not witty, or whatever, right? But I did know that like directing would have been something I could do without being necessarily so extrovert. Because I was being bullied. You grow up a little bit introverted. Some people do, some people don't until they fight back, right? There's no clear answer because I wanted to grow up doing both. I wanted to be able to do both. Ideally, I wanted to, like, if I had my dream version of my life, it would be I direct a movie, I star in it, and I plan the action sequences, like, with the rhythm and the flow, and I get choice in the editing. So that I have achieved. But on a low budget scale, but whatever.
So recent success in the movies, you received some accolades, some awards, Past and the Future Kings.
Yep.
Tell me about this feature.
That was a low budget sort of indie project that I got approached to do. Well, it turns out the guy that was directing it, this was a guy I didn't know. He was looking for someone that was actually older. Because he was not paying to do the movie, so he wasn't getting a whole lot of actors being submitted for it. And he was getting a lot of young actors, but for The King, he wanted someone that was older that gave him a kind of a Russell Crowe vibe. Someone that had a little bit more experience and looked like they lived life a little bit. So when I came into audition, it was clear by about halfway through my audition, my friend who was the producer, he's looking and he's thinking to himself, Jesus Christ, I'm doing another film with Jason Cavalier. I thought that was a priceless quote. He and I had grown up doing a lot of like indie action tests together. So that's how that started, and it took about a year. And I basically, this film is like a dream project for me because I basically get to play every action icon ever: a samurai, a cowboy, an immortal warrior. It's just like I'm like, yeah, this is so.
So what was the
For me,
awards? What did you get?
Sorry, I got best actor in a short film or a fantasy short from Genre Blast in Winchester, Virginia.
This is really cool, but that's a cool award.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm not complaining. It's better than nothing.
Well, like I said, your IMDb profile itself is better than nothing. This is amazing.
I'm glad you think so.
Does anybody? Okay, so you mentioned Van Damme and your understanding of his work. Is there anybody on set that you absolutely love working action wise?
Yes, I got the chance to go out to observe. Okay, well, no, it started earlier than that actually. I got the chance to be part of the stunt team for 300.
Wow.
Yeah, and these are the same guys that were responsible for John Wick and Atomic Blonde and some of the other like higher level action films you see now. And the people that have studied under them have gone on to do like the majority of the Marvel movies, specifically the Captain America movies and Winter Soldier and some of those. So it's like when you look at the action in those films, you go, and they're also on the DC side. They did Larnell Staval, who started on his own, but then went to work for them, and I guess matured or updated some of his stunt knowledge with them. Has gone on to do Titans, and his star is rising. So a lot of influential action design fight people have come out of this place. And I got to work with them on 300 for the first time. And it was like, they had just come off The Matrix.
Wow.
If that gives you an indication.
Gives you an idea,
because that was like a major ping pong in the world of action, right? When people saw that, it's like, oh my God, so we've never seen anything like this. Well, they had just come off that. Then they came to Montreal. They did 300. And I was fortunate to get to experience that. That was a life changer for me.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So speaking of Matrix, do you believe in Matrix?
Oh, you're going there.
I am.
You're going there?
I am going there.
All right, yeah. Yeah, in many different forms.
Yes.
What's the Matrix about, right? It's about a construct. It's about a cage, a prison of some sort that you eventually learn to free yourself from. I guess if we take that as the main theme. So yeah, for sure.
Well, nowadays
in a lot of different ways, and sometimes those matrices, those constructs, or those self limitations are, well, I just said it's self-imposed. Sometimes you have to learn by breaking through the ones that you impose on yourself, and then I guess after that you learn to recognize the ones that other people impose upon you, and whether you choose to be, tied by them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes absolute sense.
saying?
Do you think what like the your birth experience that you had, is that something that broke you out of Matrix before you even became conscious of that? That's a deep question.
Wow, it is, and I don't know that I can answer it. It's a good point. I don't know. What do you think?
It's so you're a glitch in the Matrix, like, because your success story is all over the place, and like looking at your IMDb's profile, you've done everything, you tried everything. You sort of like you always step outside of that box of limits. There's no limits to your creative career, and also probably there are no limits in your mind.
Yeah,
because you've done it all. You've done action movies. You done TV shows. You were a teenage heartthrob.
Yeah.
You've done a bunch of stunt work. You directed movies. You created movies. Like you technically have no fear of touching anything you wanted to touch and try it, and you're not afraid to succeed in it.
Or not succeed.
Or not succeed.
Yeah.
In it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Because acting can be really demoralizing. It's like you're constantly told no. Your job is rejection. And when you think about it, in my career, I got started. I started like at the top. I became the star of a TV series right out of school, and then you get a few parts here and there and then nothing. And if you tie up your whole self-worth in that, like who you are as a person, it can become very like, it's a big blow. And you have to re-question again. You have to rebuild yourself from the beginning, reinvent yourself essentially. And that's when I started to focus mostly on stunts. And it was a bit of a trap too, because when you do stunts, you don't have to, once you've shown what you can do in front of the 3-4 coordinators or 5 coordinators in town, at that time there were not as many, you don't have to audition anymore. The phone rings, they call you, and they just say, hey, can you come and do this? Whereas auditioning, as you well know, you've done it, it's a constant process of testing yourself, whatever. And the rejection, it can get to you, it can really like start to form your own vision of yourself, and if you envisioned yourself as more, but you're not seeing that externalized, it can be demoralizing, right? So what I learned from it was essentially to kind of detach from it. I had to go back to doing the acting because I liked it, not because I was looking for a result, not because I was looking for any kind of like gratification, although that does come, but I had to do it because I really had something to say. Like I would start to accept auditions and choose parts based on if when I read the material, did it connect to me? Did it say something to me? Like, could I find a hook that I could relate to in the character when I was reading that script? And if I could find that hook, I would go to the audition and do the part, because I knew that I would show up and I would have my Jason way of doing it. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't worry about, the character has to be like this or like that. I had to really worry about, how do I honestly express the core of what this guy is trying to say? And if I could get that hook, like if that actually touched me here, I would accept the audition. If I couldn't, if it was something that I could not find a handle on, I wouldn't do it. I just go, sorry. And it didn't matter if the character was big, because sometimes the character was 4 lines, but if there was like a through line or something there that I could grab onto, I did it. So, that's how I got my way back into acting. Wow, that was long, wasn't it? Sorry.
So is it all part of your self-discovery? Meaning, like you're talking about your ups and downs, and like like you said, early in your career you had a lot of success, and then you went down. And early in the interview you mentioned about discovering your voice, about discovering who you are, and kind of now you're repeating that again. You're saying like, I had to align with myself to be able to relate on the screen or relay on the screen what it is. And I did it not because of many different things, including want to be an actor or getting the paycheck. I did it because I wanted to, and because I love doing it. And you can see that passion throughout all the work that you touch, your acting, your stunt work. You're very professional about it on top of it. And that's where the discipline part comes in from the army and everything else. You're a well-rounded guy. So basically, you're showing the box of tools that is a result of this box of tools, your IMDB profile, right? And so IMDB profile and all of your career and all of your credits and everything else is really just an extension of all the things you like doing outside of the screen, which is like martial arts, creating, having fun, learning new things, learning how you can do it and everything else. It seems like a message, right? But on the other hand, what would you recommend for the people that maybe want to start in a way with creating movies or doing some stunt work or becoming an actor? What would be your passage? I don't know, advice.
I'd have to get the specific question. What are you most interested in? Because I can only tell you how I did it. I don't know if that's the way to do it, but like, if you say, how do you best go about becoming an actor? Or do you say, do I want to do what you did, Jason, be an actor, do stunts, and direct my own indie things? My answer would be simple. It'd be, well, go do it. That'd be my simple answer. My more complex answer would be, well, which one do you like the most? Which one do you like best? And don't lie. Don't lie to yourself about what it is you want to do. be very direct to the universe about what your goal is and what you want. You know, say it. I want to be an actor and I want to do stunts. If you start by that, by being honest with yourself, you'll start aligning those things that you need in your life, and they will come to you to point you in that direction. But you have to be honest about it, because the universe will give you those things, what you ask for. But if you don't really like it, you won't really pursue it to its fullest. But if you really know, start by that, knowing yourself, what it is you really want to do. Do you like acting? Do you really, really like it? Because if you do, you're going to go and you will experience some hardship, which is necessary to explore it deeply. Do you like stunts? Do you really, really like it? Like, if you fucking get hurt and break your leg, are you going to go through the healing process and get back up and keep studying it some more? You know, you go through that hardship to go explore it deeply. Whatever it is you pick, you've got to be willing to kind of see it through to the end. And you'll know inside yourself, if you really, really listen to your voice inside yourself, what you like to do. I'd start like that.
Since we're talking about Matrix, is Earth flat?
Oh, do I believe in the flat Earth theory? I looked into it.
See, I knew it. I knew to ask this. So what do you think?
I don't know. It's a hard one for me to really go with it, but I did look into it. And I'm not willing to discount it. What if I'm wrong? The fuck? What if the Earth is flat? Because for a long time, people did.
For a long time, the thought it was flat, wasn't it?
Yeah, for a long time, people believed it was flat. And for a long time before that, we were supposedly ruled by gods from another place or dimension or whatever, if you look at those legends, right? I don't really know. And let's put it this way. Let's say I did know. Let's say I did know, and let's say it was. Let's say it was flat. Well, then what? What do we do about it? You know, where are we?
How does it change your everyday life?
How does it change my everyday life? What do I do with that knowledge if I know it? Okay, so you're telling me I'm in a jail. I'm in a cell still. I guess that eternal question, I'll break out of that one too.
Well, I think I just...
I don't know.
Exactly. But maybe I asked you that question
I don't know, man.
to see how, to see where your mindset in terms of everything's plausible.
Are you saying would it destroy my reality as it is right now? No.
No, I'm not even saying that. I think that the fact that your mind's open to everything, including flat Earth, I think that's part of the quality that you have as an actor, as a performer, as a stuntman, as a person to see outside of the box. Because, like, as a director, I'm sure you come to the scene and you look.
You want my honest opinion about flat Earth?
Yeah, go ahead.
I won't ridicule it.
Me neither.
I will not laugh at it. I will not ridicule it because, honestly, I don't know. I've never been up in space far enough to see if we're really living on a globe.
You don't have any primary evidence.
No.
Neither am I.
You know? And
you make movies so you can make it plausible to make it look real.
I understand the idea of manufactured images. I get that too. Am I going to swallow it whole just because someone says this, that, and the other? No. But I will not ridicule someone else's belief, and I will listen to the argument. Just like I'll listen to any argument. I think like what you were trying to tell me before about the number 6 and the number 5, having one foot on either side, managing both the light force and the dark force, I think it's kind of the way to go, because it's like they both exist. That I have seen. That I know from my own personal human experience, that we have both light and dark energies inside of us. And that's all I've done in my whole life, is just try to balance both of them, right? Like have a handle on it. We see it in nature. So I won't discount anything, and I'll listen to it. It might sound ridiculous, might sound completely impossible and totally insane, but that's part of the fun of embracing life too, is to like be willing to look at the insanity and the implausibility, and it also helps to feed your imagination.
Exactly, but to a lot of people, it's less insane to think of flat Earth than to jump off the 5th story on fire, doing somersaults. So what's more insane? It's discussing a flat Earth or doing that? Yeah,
but it's less insane only if you know that there's techniques to it, and it looks dangerous like anything, like fire burn, whatever, looks like super, super dangerous. But once you understand sort of the mechanics of it, then it's like if I were to take a Swiss watch and throw all the pieces and say, here, build it, Alex, you'd be like, oh, fuck, well, but if I say, Alex, this piece goes here, that piece goes there, this one goes here, and then we do that meticulously and we build it, then suddenly the puzzle doesn't seem so challenging anymore.
What's the craziest stunt you ever done on set?
Craziest or one I was most fucking scared?
Yeah, what brings fear into you?
Yeah, well, this is an easy story. I was working on a really low-budget film called Crosswinds. And my job was to be like a bad guy, like a thug. And I was to get exploded out of a glass window at the end of the movie by the hero. He has a grenade gun. And they were going to use an air ram, which is a pneumatic platform that, sends stuntmen flying in the air. And the problem was that the window frame was at a heritage house. It was these giant, thick beams, like twice the thickness of those in the back over there. And I knew that when the air ram, it lifts you, it sends you in a certain trajectory. And if I had done what I usually do, I knew that my head would have hit straight into the beam. So what I did was I measured the dimensions, the opening, and I built a mock-up of it with a gobo stand and a piece of tape. And every day I practiced going through it. And sure enough, the first time I tried it, I went right through the tape where the beam was. And if I had done it without practicing it, I would have broken my neck.
Wow.
Yeah. And I knew that looking at the frame. I'm like, I'm going in that direction. I know that's exactly what's going to happen. So for a couple of days before, I practiced going through this opening until I could alter my technique of launching just enough to like clear the beam. Sometimes my heel would hit as I would like exit the window. And I said, well, at the very worst, like maybe the worst bad thing that could happen would be I would, break my heel. But my neck, I was certain now I knew how to do it. But the other complication we had with that stunt was just as I hit the air ram, they were going to set off some pyro explosion, so that when I start launching, the explosion goes off behind me. So you see this big ball of flame and smoke and stuff that adds the effect to it. So we get there on the day, get ready to do the stunt. And there was another guy next to me. His job, he wasn't going off a pneumatic platform. He was just going to launch himself through the window. And they all told him, they said, listen, Jason has the more difficult stunt to do. When we call action, whatever you do, wait for him. Don't go right away. Because if he had gone first, that means they have to set the flame and the pyro off first, right? So what happens? On action, he goes first, and he's a split second ahead of me. So I'm like, fuck it. I start running, and I hit the pneumatic platform, but he hits the window a split second ahead of me. So as soon as I hit the platform, they set off the pyro, the fire, the smoke, everything in my face. So I close my eyes, and so now I can't see anything. And I prayed. I prayed my body would do what I had trained it to do the 2 days before. Just curl up naturally so I could miss that beam. Because otherwise I'm flying blind and I'm like, am I going to go through that window and come out on the other side with a broken neck? Well, luckily, no, I didn't. I came flying out. You could see my heel just come out through the corner of the window. So I managed to tuck my heel and not break my heel either. And that was the one that like scared me the most. Because like everything could have gone wrong, but I just like sucked it up and just tunnel visioned it and did what I trained myself to do.
Do you have a meditation practice that you have?
Maybe going in the freezing lake every day.
That's what you do. You go in the lake. You go in the water.
Yeah. Every morning and every night.
And you did it this morning. When you're going to do it tonight?
I will do it tonight.
And tonight is a minus temperature.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. It's like -5 tonight.
-5. Big deal. Last year I went... the latest I went was on December 15th, and it was -15.
Well, next time you do it, invite us, we'll film it. Any advice at all on mindfulness in terms of, I like your advice on how, like, if you really want to do something, just want to do it, make sure it's you. Because when you do it, you said now, it's no longer what you do. You no longer even consider it a job. It's just part of who you are. It's part of what you do, technically, at this point. Any advice on self-discovery, like other than like things like you tried, like martial arts?
It's gonna sound like cliche, but if you find out early on what you like to do, then do it. And when you eventually get work in it, you won't mind, because everything is work, you know? You have to work for everything, and sometimes you have to go through ups and downs. But if the thing is that you like what you're doing, it'll get you through those hard times. Because if your passion is true and strong for what you really like to do, you're going to go through ups and downs. So when you go through those downs, you know, if you still like doing what you're doing, stick with it. You know, don't give up. Get back up. You know.
That's a good message to finish with. Thank you. Don't give up. Stick with it. And thank you for listening to Alex Saz Show.